broadcast. I don't have a topic planned out. I do my best to respond to all the chat that comes in on the live chat. So, leave a comment, leave a question, and I'll do my best to respond to it. Give me some time. Don't spam us with comments over and over again. I'll try to get to it. If you see me answer a comment that came in well past yours, well, then you can go ahead and ask again. But otherwise, just give me some time. It takes me a little while to get through all these. What else? What else? Oh, be polite, be friendly, be family friendly. Don't start cussing at people. Don't, we don't need a big political discussion going on or any of those kinds of things. So let's just be nice and be friendly to everybody. That's all I ask. We don't want to have to kick you out. So, all right, let's get into it. We got a couple of people already waiting. Let's see who we got here. Houdini Two Wheels, Mark, Maxwell, Stevie, and Brittany. Hello to all of you. Thank you for joining. And we got a couple more people coming in. Root user, I think it is. Hello to you. Good evening. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Thanks for joining tonight. I appreciate it. Good evening to you, Candace. And is it Yerebiz? Yerebiz? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Good evening to you as well. Maxwell, hello. I'm with you, though. I wish there was a quail emoji. They should make one, shouldn't they? I don't know the first thing about making them, or I'd make one myself. But anyway, Phyllis says, we talk about quail and be nice. Well, that's all I ask. Just be nice. We can talk about whatever you guys want to ask me. It doesn't matter. I'll do my best to answer it. Just like I said, keep it family friendly and be polite. So, hey to you, Mama. Mama tried Homestead. There we go. Hello to you in the sim. Is that it? And Chinky B, Brittany Cruz, Cristiano Costa. Good night from Portugal. Wow, that's a long way away. Thanks for I guess it's probably staying up late to hang out with us. Appreciate that. Hello to you, Petway Family Farmstead. Wants to know what's going on. Well, just got home from work and got a few things wrapped up so I could do the live broadcast with you guys tonight. Hello from, who's that? Maria. Hello to you, Maria Gomez from Buckeye, Arizona. Brad Clark and Quail City Life. Good evening to you, Brad Clark. Sorry. Quail City Life has a question here. It says, random question. What day of incubation do quails start rocking and shaking in the incubator? It's a good question. Usually not right until right before they hatch. Mine don't really rock and shake too much at all, ever. I don't think I've ever really noticed it anyway, but usually right before they hatch. So that's going to be like day 17, day 18. It just kind of depends on a little bit. Sometimes they hatch a little bit earlier, sometimes they hatch a little bit later, but right about that day, right when they start pipping the egg is about the time they're usually going to start rocking, and what they're doing is repositioning themselves in the egg, getting ready to hatch. So right about that same time. Matthew says, hello, I just got my first soft shell egg today. My quail are now 7 weeks old. Should I be concerned? They started laying at 5 weeks old. You should be no, you shouldn't be concerned at all. It's normal. It's normal, completely normal, especially when the birds first start laying. You're going to get soft eggs, no shell eggs. You're going to get, you said they started laying at 5 weeks. They're almost 7 weeks now. That's still pretty early on. So expect some little bitty eggs with no yolks, some double yolk eggs, great big. Soft shells, no eggshell. Don't worry about it. It's normal. It's nothing to worry about. If you are worried, you'll hear a lot of people just jump automatically and say you need to add calcium to your feed. You probably don't. They only need 1.5 to 2.2% of their diet to be calcium. Check your feed for the ingredients, and it should tell you what the calcium level is. As long as it's 1.5 to 2%, you're fine. You don't need to add any more calcium. It's just going to happen. It just happens every once in a while. It's nothing to worry about. Now, if you start getting like every day, soft shell eggs for like weeks on end, well, then maybe you want to add some calcium. If you do, don't just dump it in their food, put it in a separate container. And that would be something like crushed oyster shell or something like that. Put it in a separate container, though. There is a problem. I mean, if you give them too much calcium, that can be a problem as well. So hopefully I got that question answered for you. All right, Alex says, hey, Chris, can quail die from being egg-bound? Found one of my hens that just happened to be laying a celadon egg dead yesterday. Vent was prolapsed and egg was stuck. Yeah, they can die from being egg bound. It can definitely happen. That could very well be the cause of it. In fact, if your founder, you said she happened to be laying a celadon egg, that is probably the cause. That would be my guess. All right, where are we at here? Is it Garrison Bay says, love all your info. We'll be starting in quail in a few months, learning everything I can. Well, thanks for watching the videos. I hope that you're finding them really helpful. Carter, hello to you. And Taco Promotions, what kind of color variations do you think can occur from a king quail and a standard brown Coturnix? Let me see. King Quail. I think, if I'm not mistaken, isn't King Quail? Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, you're not going to get any color combinations from them because you can't breed a King Quail and a standard Coturnix quail together and expect to get any offspring off them. They're different species, so they can't interbreed. Now, I don't think they can anyway. They might be able to produce young. If they were able to produce young, you're going to get mules. They're going to be sterile. They're not going to be able to produce young of their own. But I don't think you can even get them to crossbreed to actually produce fertile eggs and produce young. They're completely different species. So, but let's assume that they could breed. I don't know what would be the dominant gene, so I don't know what kind of color combination you would get from that. Hard to say for sure. Quail's City Life says, my quail started shaking at day 12. Okay, well, count me wrong. Maybe I just don't pay enough attention to my eggs. Maybe they have shaken before and I just never noticed, because I tend to be kind of, not, I wouldn't say lazy, but I just, take care of what I need to take care of and I just leave them alone. But who knows? Maybe they do start shaking early. All right, Jupiter. Hey, Chris, what are your favorite kinds of heirloom tomatoes? Everyone else, feel free to share your favorites too. Already planning next year's garden. Good question. If you guys don't know already, you probably do, but just in case you don't know, an heirloom and a hybrid, those are basically the two types of pretty much any plant, but tomatoes, we're talking heirlooms or hybrids. And hybrids are going to be, well, just what they sound like, combination of different kinds of different types of tomatoes, different species of tomatoes, I guess they are. I don't know if that's the right word for it or not. But anyway, they're usually bred for longevity, disease resistance. There's a lot of different reasons why you would produce a hybrid, and some of those can be really, really good producers. Here's the difference, though. An heirloom is one that if you take the seeds from an heirloom plant and you plant those seeds, you're going to get the exact same thing you took those seeds from. So like one of my favorite heirloom tomatoes, for a good slicing, like you're going to put on sandwiches and that kind of stuff, tomato is a Mortgage Lifter Red. So if I save those tomatoes and save the seeds out of those tomatoes and I plant those, I'm going to get a Mortgage Lifter Red tomato. If you use let's see, a common hybrid around here would be like Early Girl or Better Boy. Those are pretty common hybrids. If you save the seeds from those and plant those, who knows what you're going to get. You might get a viable plant. You might get one that's just junk, but they're not going to be true to that parent plant, if that makes sense. So I like heirloom plants because I can save the seeds and plant them year after year after year, which is good. My favorites, again, slicing tomatoes would be Mortgage Lifter Red. And for a paste tomato, I do both. I like the Mortgage Lifter Reds for slicing, making sandwiches, eating fresh. And I grow the paste tomatoes primarily for canning, to make sure I have tomatoes throughout the year. My favorite paste tomato is an Amish paste. And if you don't know what a paste tomato is, it's very similar to like a Roma. A Roma would be a paste tomato. Let's see, what's the most common probably paste tomato? There's a really popular heirloom paste tomato, and I can't think of what the name of it is right offhand. San Marzano, I think is what it is. That's a really common one as well. I like Amish paste. They've always done pretty well for me. All right. Topeka Urban Farm says, hey, I was wanting to ask, what other feed can I give my quail other than Nutrina Game Bird, or what can I mix? Oh boy, that's a good question. I get a lot of questions about mixing your own feed. I'm really not the guy probably to ask about that. That takes a lot of research, a lot of study, a lot of knowing. I mean, you got to get it all right. It's not, quail are omnivores. They don't eat specifically just vegetables. They need insects. They need animal protein in their diet as well. And in the wild, that's going to be bugs and insects, and they're going to eat grains and all those kinds of things. But if you're going to mix your own feed, you need to get all that mixed in there. And I don't know I haven't studied it enough to be able to tell you exactly how to mix your own feed. If you're wanting to get away from Nutrina Game Bird, I'm not real familiar with that. I mean, I've heard of it, but I'm not real familiar with it. Any Game Bird starter is going to be fine. I go with some that's made from a local feed mill. It's just a Game Bird starter I get from a local feed store. They mill their own feed. Turkey starter is also very good. You can use that as well. As far as specific brands, it doesn't really matter. Any brand is going to be just fine. I like to get something that's about 25% or higher. So turkey starter is a good alternative. Game Bird starter is a good alternative if you can find those anywhere. If you don't if they don't have them, if they don't carry them in stock, check with your feed store and see if they can order it in. A lot of the times they can. They don't necessarily carry it all the time because there's not a huge demand. But if they know you're going to need it on a regular basis, they can order it in for you, and it just comes with a regular shipment. You don't pay any shipment fees with that. They just get it as part of their regular order. So hopefully that kind of answered that question for you. All right, Southeastern Nomads, hello from Alabama. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. What is a good incubator for under $200? Well, I haven't checked incubator prices in a while, but if I was going to buy a brand new one, I would probably go with the Incubators. What is it? Incubator 1602, I think it is. Has a forced air kit in it. I think it runs about pretty close to $200. But it may be a little bit less than that, actually. If you're really looking to get a little cheaper than that, you can get, Little Giant's pretty good, or even Farm Innovations are pretty good. The one thing I will say about Little Giant, I don't have personal experience with Farm Innovation, so I can't, give you specifics on that. But what I will say about Little Giant is, I've been using a Little Giant incubator for years. And I did have the thermostat go out in it. At one time, I contacted the company, Miller Manufacturing is who makes them. And I said, hey, this thermostat went out. They didn't ask me any questions like, when did you buy it? Nothing. They just shipped me a brand new thermostat. So super customer service. So that's one thing I can say about Little Giant, but I hear really good things about Incubators. And I think it's a 1602. Somebody's probably going to correct me and give you the right model number on that. But the Incubators are a good one. That would be one I would suggest. Hopefully I got that answered for you. J.R. Bailey says, hey, Chris, my girls started laying at 6 weeks, and one of them began laying nearly perfectly long cylinder eggs. Have you ever seen that before? I've seen, I get some eggs like that every great once in a while, but not on a regular basis. That's a little bit odd, unusual for sure. I'm not sure if they would hatch, if they'd be viable eggs or not. That's kind of interesting. It'd be interesting to see if that's something that kind of continues to her, if she kind of grows out of that, so to speak. Check it out and see. Annette says, hello from good country. You probably mean God's country. What's the best day to start lockdown? Tomorrow's day 15. It's my first time, and I'm read conflicting times to start lockdown. Thank you. I like to actually go into lockdown on day 15. Most of the time, your birds don't hatch until about day 18. But I have had birds hatch a little bit earlier than that, and I used to kind of wait a little bit later and go into lockdown on like day 16 or so. And I've had birds hatch before I was ready to have them into lockdown and hatch in the egg turner, So I like to go into lockdown on day 15, just my personal preference. All right, Owen says, hi, how you doing? I'm doing well, Owen. Thanks. Hopefully you are too. Jupiter says, I hate skipping ads when I watch you and other favorite YouTube channels, but lately it's been a lot of political ads. Skip the ads if you want to. It's okay. I'm not, I run monetization on my channel, but that doesn't mean you have to watch the ads. If it's something that pertains to you, watch it. If it's something you're interested in, click on it, go check out their offers. If it's not, then feel free to skip it. It's okay with me. Skipping you're going to get a lot of political ads right now. That's just the way it goes. I'll be glad when the political season's over, but that's just my personal opinion. All right, where are we at here? Cristiano says, I love your tips about raising quail. I have my experience, but always like to follow someone who do the things right. Thank you for sharing all, and God bless you. I'm having a hard time reading for some reason. I'm stumbling over my words tonight, but thank you, Cristiano. I appreciate that. And, I watch other people too, even though, I'm not saying I'm the expert. I'm the only one that knows how to do things. There's lots of different ways. What do they say? There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And there's lots of different ways to raise quail and rabbits. And you can do it differently than me. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. I like to see other people's opinions on it too. We can disagree on things. We can still be friends. I can still respect people, even if I think, I disagree with you on that. I think I'd do it differently. And I think, maybe this is a better way to do something. It's okay. You can have your own opinion. You can do things the way you want to do. Assuming you're not just being completely brutal to your animals, of course. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that exactly. But hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. All right, Robert. Let's see. I just hatched out my batch of eggs on day 17. I've gotten 54 of 65 eggs. That's pretty good. You say, is that a good hatch? Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's pretty good. I'm in Beaumont, Texas, and we just had a Hurricane Laura come through last Thursday. Had no power for 8 hours. So if your birds hatched after being with no power for 8 hours, that's really good, actually. Glad to hear you're doing okay, or at least I hope that means you're doing okay. I know hurricanes. I used to live in East Texas. I lived in Nacogdoches for about 8 years. And it was a Hurricane Rita, I think it was, that came through there, knocked our power out. And then it was like 110 degrees for the next 4 days with no power. So it's kind of miserable. I know how that goes. I've been there. Hang in there, man. It's going to get better, I promise. All right. Excuse me. David said, I had male quail all together and they start mating with each other. Ended up losing all their feathers. Some of them get injured pretty bad. What should I do? Sounds like it may be time to eat some of your roosters. If you don't want to do that, reduce the amount of light. If you can get them down below like 10 hours a day of light, they're going to go out of breeding cycle, out of breeding mode. They won't have all those hormones rushing through their body and they'll just mellow right out. Or you can just wait a little while. Chances are what these are young birds that just came of age. Think of them as like teenagers. They're just raging with hormones right now. It'll calm down as they get a little bit older. And again, if you can have a way to reduce the amount of light, maybe cover their hutch or something like that at night, and reduce the light to where they're only getting like say 10 hours or less a day, that'll help too. That'll calm them down. All right. AM says, just started raising rabbits. Your videos are very helpful. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Caden says, do you still do rabbits? I show rabbits and currently have 20. Yes, I do still do rabbits. Yes, I still do rabbits. I don't do a whole lot of videos on rabbits anymore. I will pick that up a little bit because I tend to focus more on my rabbits in the fall and the winter, more on the quail in the spring and the summer. That's just the natural way it goes. I don't breed in the summer. I did one breeding early spring and I've still got babies growing out from that. But other than that, I don't breed in the summer. I breed in the fall and the winter. And so I'll be kind of shifting a little bit, probably doing a little bit more rabbit videos then. Who knows? We'll see. I struggle almost every week on trying to come up with good topics to cover. And it's just, you get video maker's block, I guess. But anyway. All right, Bubba says, hey, Chris, hope everything's going good. Well, thank you. It is so far. It's been incredibly busy lately, but it's going well. This is probably a good time when I say I've been incredibly busy lately to tell you guys I'm not going to be here next Thursday. There won't be a live broadcast next Thursday. I'm going on vacation next week. We're going to be out of town the whole week, so I'm not going to, I won't get I used to say when I was going on trips or vacation or something like that, I'm going to try to shoot, and it never worked out. So no broadcast next week. We'll pick back up the week after. Dixon's Romping Dairy Goat says, my Copernic eggs are on day 14. Do I need to put them in the lockdown tonight? You're probably fine to wait till tomorrow. I wouldn't worry about it. And goes on to say, hello from Clayton, Idaho. Well, that's a place I've never been. Maybe I'll visit there someday. You never know. Caden says, also, I use your tips to get rid of ear mites. Thanks. One question, though. After I did that, some of them have a weird-looking patch of fur on the outside of their ears. The scabs inside are all gone, though. It could be that the ear mites, bother the outside of their ears as well. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Even after the scabs are gone, go ahead and treat them again, every other day, every couple of days for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, just to make sure you got them all and they're gone. All right, Maxwell says, I live in Vermont. It's now as bad a time to get quail as people make it sound going into winter. Oh, is now a bad a time to get quail going into winter. No, quail do fine in the wintertime. As long as you're not getting like day-old chicks and putting them out in freezing cold, as long as they're fully feathered out and fairly 4 or 5 week old or older, they're going to do fine. Give them a windbreak somewhere they can get out of the wind. Don't worry about them. They're going to be fine. The hardest part about wintertime is just keeping them watered, but because water freezes, you got to go out and bust the ice out and give them fresh water a couple times a day. All right, Jupiter says, are you saying mortgage lifter red? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Says, I let the plants grow from seed that had fallen from my Better Boy last year. They did produce tomatoes, but they tasted terrible. Glad I did the experiment, though. Yeah, it's a crapshoot when you're trying to plant from seed from an heirloom plant. You don't know what you're going to get. You may get a mix of things. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it's usually not good. You usually want to get heirloom plants. But yeah, I'm saying mortgage lifter red. Mortgage lifter, there's an interesting story behind the mortgage lifter red. There was a guy, what's his name? Radiator Charlie, I think his name was, back in like the 40s, that developed this mortgage lifter red, or was famous for him. I don't know if he developed it, but he started all these tomato seedlings and sold them for $1 a piece and made enough money selling these tomato seedlings to people that he paid off his mortgage with sales from the tomato seedlings. That's where they got the Mortgage Lifter Red. So they're a great little beefsteak tomato, just fantastic flavor. Just kind of what you would think of as a, like a beefsteak, Better Boy or something like that. But they're an heirloom. All right. David says, can I use turkey grower pellets? You should be able to. I'm not sure. I like a higher protein. I would go with a turkey starter over a turkey grower. But yeah, they'll work. You can use them. All right. Petway Family says, please explain incubator lockdown. Our quail are on day 12 now. Okay. Good question. Yeah, lockdown is a term you're going to hear a lot, but I think a lot of people just assume everybody knows what it means, so they don't explain it. So let's see what I can do to explain it to you. The idea of lockdown is the last couple of days before they hatch, you want to give the birds a chance to orient themselves for the hatch, get ready for it. So you take them out of the egg turner, you put them in the floor of the incubator, you add some water if you need to add some water to get your humidity a little bit up. And then you close the incubator up and you don't open it again until the hatch is completely done. And the biggest reason for that is because if you open the incubator when eggs have pipped, or like the chicks have pipped, they pipped a hole in their shell, but they haven't hatched out yet, there's a rush of fresh air that comes into the incubator and it can shrink wrap them. It can cause that membrane to shrink wrap right around that chick, and then they end up dying in the eggshell and they never hatch out. So you want to wait till the hatch is completely done. It never works out that way for me. It's never completely done when I have to open it up and get some birds out, but mostly done anyway. Now, once your birds start hatching, the first one hatches, you can give them up to 3 days before you have to open the incubator and get them out. I usually go about 48 hours, sometimes 24 if I've had the majority of them hatch out within 24 hours. They're all dry and they're all fluffy. Don't get them out of there until they're dry and fluffy. That's when you open the incubator, get them all out, and don't give up on the rest of your eggs. Close it back up because you might get a couple more birds hatch. I usually do. Hopefully that kind of gives you the explanation. But the idea of lockdown is you're locked. All right. Hey, Black Pack Homestead is here. Good to see you guys. Robert says, let's see, have you used drop-down nest boxes for your rabbit? If so, what's your opinion? I haven't used them. I think they look neat. I don't know how well they'd work or if they wouldn't work. I mean, I assume that they'd be a good option, but I just haven't used them. They're a little bit of work for, in my opinion, to put into the cage, to build it into the floor of the cage. And I'm just not sure. I don't know. Just haven't gone through the effort of doing it. All right. David says, do you change the shavings, and how often do you change the shavings when brooding chicks? Well, I don't actually use shavings when I brood chicks. When I was brooding them in tubs, I used paper towels as the bedding because it's just easier to clean up. And, when I would change them, it depends. I mean, it varies a little bit. First couple of days, it depends on how many birds you have. I change them when it gets dirty. Let's put it that way. How often that is, for about the first week, it's usually like 3 or 4 days before I need to change the paper towels on the bottom. But after the first 5-6 days and the birds start getting a little bit bigger, it's like every other day that you got to clean that out because they start getting big fast and they make a huge mess. Now I'm using a big brooder box. It's the bed liner for my truck. So it's like 6 foot by 5 foot or something like that. So it's pretty good size. And I just line it with hay and I don't have to change that bedding out at all. I mean, I've got like 50 birds in there and it doesn't even look messy. It's just a thick layer of hay in the bottom of it, and that'll last the entire hatch. Or the entire 2.5, probably 3 weeks at the most that'll have those birds in there. I won't have to clean it out. So hopefully that answers that question for you. All right, JR says, Incubator 1588, that may be it, is the model with a pre-installed forced air fan. The 1602 requires you to mount the fan. Okay, thanks, JR, I appreciate that. I always forget those model numbers, but somebody else always knows it and leaves it for us, so thank you. Blackpack Homestead says, have you ever attempted to tractor your quail? No, I have not. I've thought about doing that before, but I haven't built a tractor for the quail. So who knows? Stay tuned. Maybe I'll try that out. Maybe I'll do an experiment and see how well it works. All right. Bob says, I recently made a replica of your quail hutch, including a sand area. How often do I clean the sand and the hutch? I don't ever clean my hutch. I don't find it necessary. Clean the sand when it gets dirty enough. And, when that happens, it varies depending on how many birds you've got in there. I usually find it's about every 3-4 months I need to clean it out. It really isn't that bad. So if it seems to be a little bit dirtier, I'll clean it out a little bit sooner. But usually I can usually go at least 3 months. So, hey, there's a super chat coming in. Anyway, hopefully that answers that question for you, Bob. Is that Zakab G, I think it is. $9.99 super chat says, thank you for all your hard work and videos. All my quail are here because of your videos. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That was very generous of you. Thank you for watching the videos, too. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. All right. CC says 9330. What is that? Sorry, newbie here in Phil. I don't know what that is either. 9330. What? Oh, did I put the date on the? Here, hang on. Let me see. I did, didn't I? I made a typo. Yeah, it's supposed to be 9/3/20. It's the date. Today's date. You watch me long enough, you're going to catch me making all kinds of mistakes with things I say. I was talking about the RHVD2 virus on a video the other day, and I said that rabbits dying off affect predators that feed primarily on rabbits like eagles and ibex. I said ibex. I didn't mean ibex. I meant lynx. But I said ibex. I didn't even catch it. I said somebody else put in the comments. If you don't know, an ibex is like a goat, is a type of goat. So yeah, of course, goats don't feed on rabbits. Rabbits are not the primary diet source for rabbits. So watch me long enough. I make a lot of mistakes. I say a lot of stupid things, and I'm notoriously bad at making mistakes in the typing. So anyway, thanks for pointing that out. I'll have to go back and edit that after we're done. Hey, good evening to you, Boris. Good to see you. Joyce says, I'm learning a lot from you. Thank you. I'm new to quail, and I live in Northeast Oklahoma. Awesome. Well, I live in Southwest Missouri, so we're not too far apart, probably. Let's see. Get my direction right. Let me think here. Northeast. Yeah, you should be pretty close to me. So I had to make sure that I was thinking geographically the right direction. Nolly says, what breed of meat rabbit would you recommend for southern Alaska? I don't think it really matters where you live. I think New Zealand whites and Californias are really hard to beat. Both of those should do really, really well. And they're going to do fine in the cold. You don't have to worry about that. I don't know if there's any specific rabbit breed that's any better for southern Alaska than there is anywhere else. I really don't know. But you can't go wrong with those two breeds. They're great meat rabbits. There's a reason why they're the most popular. Those are great, and you could really get anything that's a common meat rabbit. Silver fox would do fine. Standard Rex would do fine. Giant chinchillas would do fine. What else is there out there? Anyway, those are a handful of them. Me personally, I kind of like the New Zealand whites and the Californias. They're just, again, there's a reason they're the most popular. They tend to work out the best. All right. Let's see where we're at here. Mark says, can you say skin a cat on YouTube without getting demonetized? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. We'll find out, won't we? Todd says, hey, Chris from Crete, Illinois. Just bred my 2 does. Any last-minute tips for a new rabbit guy? Well, there's not a whole lot to do, but just watch them. Give them till about day 27, 28, somewhere right around in there. Then go in there, take a handful of straw and throw it in their hutch. If they pick it up, start running around with straw hanging out both sides of their mouth and start carrying it around the cage. Then it's time to put the nest box in. Stick a nest box in there with lots of straw, as much straw as you can pack in that nest box. Punch your hand down in there to make a hole for them, and watch them real close for the next day or two until they have their babies. Because with first-time moms, a lot of times what they do is they have their babies on the cage floor instead of in the nest box. But if you can catch them either in the act or right after, then just scoop up the babies, put them in the nest box. The mother's going to get in there and take care of them. But that would be my suggestions. That's really about it. There's not a whole lot you have to do. All right. Excuse me. Let me grab a drink here. How are we doing on time? My goodness, time flies. It's already been 30 minutes. All right. All About Bunnies says, hello, Chris. I was wondering what should I do? My rabbit isn't giving birth. It's been a while. I palpated it, and I feel the babies. Maybe you feel the babies. And I don't mean that like smart aleck or anything. It's just palpating is incredibly hard, and it's very easy to mistake other things for babies, thinking you're feeling the babies. Now, when you say hasn't given birth and it's been a while, I don't know how long it's been, but if it's been over, say, 35 days since she was bred, actually, I'd say over 40 days at least. If it's been over that long since she was bred, she's probably not bred. She's probably not going to be having babies, and it's probably time to go ahead and rebreed her. That would be my suggestion. If it's under 40 days, wait a little bit longer. Just keep an eye on her, check her. I guess you go throw a handful of straw in there every other day. Wait till she starts hay stashing, what we call it, running around with it hanging out of her mouth, and then you're ready to have the babies. But If it's been over that long, go ahead and rebreed her. And look at there, there's another super chat coming in from Lars. So very kind of you, Lars. I appreciate that. Lars comes in here and never asks for anything. He just comes in here and throws money at me, and so nice of you. You're so very generous. Gary's talking to somebody else. I'll skip that one. Gabriel says, hey, Chris, thanks for all the good info. If and when you have birds injuring their feet, was there anything you did to remedy it or change the cage to prevent that? You know, I've had a couple of birds with some foot injuries. It's usually more like leg injuries. They're kind of, and sometimes foot injuries, but I haven't really done anything. It's not been a big problem for me. Let's put it that way. What I do find is a lot of times your older birds, when they're starting to get towards the end of their egg laying and all that kind of stuff, life, 2.5 years old, somewhere right around there, or 3 years old, somewhere around in there, they tend to get a weird injury every once in a while. And it tends to be a leg injury of some kind. And it may be because they're, hooking their foot on something when they're walking around the cage, but it may not be. I don't know. I haven't done anything to really change my cage up. For the most part, I don't have really any big problems with feet problems. And most of the time, if you just leave them be when they do injure themselves, they just heal right up. They're fine. I do find a quail every once in a while that'll be missing a toe. Not the whole toe, just like the toenail part, the end of it. Where it's probably something has gotten under the cage and grabbed it or something and pulled it off, but it doesn't seem to bother them that bad. They actually seem to recover from that just fine. So I don't really find that there's much of anything that needs to be done. All right. Jesse says, can I feed straight grass hay to my rabbits or any other alternative than store-bought pellets? There are alternatives than store-bought pellets. You can go with fodder. You're not going to want to feed just straight grass hay out of your yard. There's a lot of different things you can feed your rabbits. But what I would suggest, if you want to go off of your pellets, you want to get like a natural diet, look up fodder systems. You're going to want to probably grow something like wheat or barley. Those are fairly cheap seeds you can get. You can sprout them out pretty quickly, and you can set up a system where you have fresh, fodder every day for your rabbits. Look into a book called Beyond the Pellet. That is probably going to be the best source of information for that. I really am not the expert on feeding your rabbits naturally. It's not something that I do, so I don't really feel comfortable trying to give a bunch of advice on that. I'm going to refer you to somebody I think probably has a better idea. And Beyond the Pellet is probably the best source I think of for information on how to do that. Hang on just one second. I got something in my eye. Let's see if I can get it out. I think I got it. All right. TH55269 says turkey pellets aren't too big for quail to eat. Would have thought that quail feed should be a crumble. Well, I think that they'll eat the pellet. If they don't eat the pellets really well, grind them up, and just go get a coffee grinder or something like that. You can grind them up pretty easily. But yeah, I think you're probably better off with a crumble in most cases. All right, Dixon's Romping Rock Dairy Goat says, thumbs up, peeps. Come on, 67 here and 20 thumbs. Well, thank you, Dixon. I appreciate that. Hello to you, Brittany. And Max says bye. Well, Maxwell, have a good evening. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with us for a while. Petway Family Farmstead says, great lockdown explanation. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. And thank you. Where are we at here? Frank says, hello from Texas. Thank you for the videos. Using them, I got a great hatch rate on my first try. Thanks again. Awesome. Congratulations and well done. I'm glad that the videos were helpful. Grinnin says, small tractor worked great for me. Well, maybe it is something I'll have to try. Jupiter says, thank you for all the advice. Hope you have a great vacation. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Looks like we planned this vacation out for a while. So, and of course, me, it's my vacation. I'm going to be doing some fishing, and we've got a place on the lake we're going to be staying with my sister and some family and stuff. And it's supposed to be a cold front coming through next week, and the majority of the week's going to be like in the 60s. So it's going to be kind of cold, but oh well. It's funny, what time of year 60s is cold. Other times of year it's nice, Kathy says, I had my quail in a tractor until my neighbor complained, and both the quail and I loved it. Oh, your neighbor complained about the tractor, but the quail loved it, and you loved it as well. I may have to give it a try. We'll see. Maxwell says, how much does it cost to make a DIY cage? Oh boy, that's a good question. It depends on what type of cage you make, how big you make it. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. I think my hutches probably cost me around, how much? Probably a little over $100 to build. But I had some scrap wood and stuff too, so I didn't have to buy all the supplies to begin with. So that's just too many factors that go into that. I can't really tell you how much it's going to cost. I think I would expect to spend about $150 if you're going to build a large hutch. Probably somewhere right around in there. You should be able to do it. All right. And Buster says, don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you. Who's that? Ang Parencio, I think it is, says, your videos helped me a lot. I hatched my first set of quail, 9 out of 15. I was pretty excited. Well, that's pretty good. Good job. And I'm glad you found the videos helpful. All right, Dixon. A bunch of people talking about like thumbs up and liking the videos. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Cece says, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Started watching you after I bought a rabbit. Thanks again from the Philippines. 8:30 a.m. here, by the way. Oh, you got up a little early to watch, so thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Philippines is someplace I'd kind of like to visit sometime, too. All right, where are we at here? Let's see. Black Pack Homestead says, have you ever grown silver fox breed of rabbit? Yeah, I had some silver fox once. They were good rabbits. I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with them. I don't know. I don't know. I think we're good. I think we're back on now. Sometimes my internet connection is not the best, so apologize for that. So we were talking about silver fox. Yeah, silver fox were good. I just never, like I said, it just wasn't something. I don't know what it is. You know, like sometimes, you know, you just look at a rabbit and you're just like, oh, that's a really cool looking rabbit. I like that rabbit, you know, for whatever reason. And I just never got that way with the silver fox. So when anything wrong with them, I just didn't like them that much. All right. Good evening to you, Ibezi and Braffing King. Ibezi says, how do you keep your quail from getting fleas and bugs outside? I've never had that problem. So good question. I don't have any problems with them getting fleas or bugs. Now, if I did have them in contact with the ground, that may be different, but right now there's no problems. All right, Gabrielle says, thanks, great channel. I have another riddle in 2 weeks. Oh, I'll have another riddle in 2 weeks. All right. It's been a while since we've had a riddle. All right, Kathy says, Jay, the noises, the males. The noise from the males. Yeah, especially if you have a lot of males and when they first come of age, they can be pretty noisy. Bob says, I can't find a solar light with a timer. When will your solar light be on the market? I don't know that it will be, Bob. I'm sorry. I wish I could. But you know, I tried a couple of Kickstarter campaigns with it, and neither one of them got funded. You can't just, I can't just buy those from the manufacturer like 2 or 3 at a time. I have to buy like several hundred at a time, and I don't have that kind of money to invest in buying them. But who knows? Maybe that'll change. Maybe I'll get them made. I wish I could, but it's just right now, it's just not an option. All right. Jupiter says, did you ever hear anything else from Animal Control? Not yet. I think she was going to call them this week to come back because they're supposed to come back and do inspections and give her a permit or something like that. So we may find out by the end of the week, or it may be next week while I'm gone on vacation. Who knows? Mark says, have a great vacation. Thank you. I appreciate it. And Jay's talking to somebody else. Ari says, just had my quail. How are we doing on time here? Oh, we're doing good. We got time. All right, Ari says, I just had my quail hatch out a few weeks ago, and I noticed that some of the chicks are a lot larger than the others and are weaker. Do you know what could cause this? Let's see. Some of the chicks are a lot larger than the others and are weaker. They're larger and weaker. That seems a little bit odd. Usually it's the other way around. Usually it's the smaller ones or the weaker ones and the ones that really struggle and have a hard time. So, it's probably just genetics. It could be... Usually size is genetics. Now, when you talk about weaker birds, that can sometimes be related to like your incubating conditions. So like if your incubator's running a little bit on the low side and they hatched out a little bit late, so they hatched out on like day 19 or 20 instead of day 17 or 18, then it may be an indicator that your incubator's running a little bit low, a degree or two lower than what it actually says it is. And that could cause your birds to develop a little bit slower, have a harder time developing. And because of that, they tend to be a little bit weaker. You end up with more issues with like splayed legs and wry neck and those kinds of things too. So it could be related to that if you're having those kinds of problems. Or it could just be some kind of genetic issue that they had. I don't really know the answer to that. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you better advice, but I just don't know. Where are we at here? Canterbury says, I have heard of using worm or composting bins instead of aquaponics. Might need some aeration and tweaking of design, but seems to keep plants alive. Well, here's the problem with that. I mean, it depends on what you're growing in there, but for the most part, and it depends on what kind of a worm. Well, wait a minute. You're saying worm and composting bin instead of okay. Let me back up. I was thinking something different. But still, here's the problem with that, in my opinion, or my experience, I should say, is if you're using a composting bin where you're composting material in there, it's probably not going to house your worms because it's going to get hot, really, really hot, and it's probably not going to be a good place to be able to plant seeds in. So you're going to have to be careful if you've got a worm bin. That might be good. It's probably pretty rich, so it's going to be. I mean, you can get way too much nitrogen in there. I don't know that you could actually grow plants in there, though. It just seems like it wouldn't be. Like you can't grow plants in just pure manure. I mean, it's just too much for them. So they need other things besides just that. I don't know. Try it out and see. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but my thought is it wouldn't work very well. It's like I said, if it's a compost bin, for sure it's not going to work. If it's a proper compost bin anyway, because your compost heats up really, really hot. And it's not going to be, your worms aren't going to live in it. It's too hot for them, and your plants aren't going to survive that. It's too hot, it'll kill the seeds. But if it's just a worm bin, it might work. You can try that out. Now, what I have seen is like big planters, like tower type planters with a tube in the middle that's got holes drilled all through it, and you put waste in there and worms in there. So it's not really a worm bin. It's potting mix or something that you put in the sides to plant the plants in, but you have worms that live in there, and they go in and out of that tube in the middle and eat the waste that you put in there, and that's what keeps them alive. And then they in turn fertilize the plants and aerate the soil as they crawl through the soil and stuff like that. So that may be kind of what you're thinking about. That would actually work, I would think, pretty well. All right, TH5569, 269, there we go. Says, note to self, chicken snakes can get in anywhere. Went to feed today, found 5 dead birds, then opened the other door and face to face with a snake. It killed 5 birds before we could get one, or before he could get one it could swallow. Really, that's interesting. It's kind of rare. I mean, it happens sometimes, but it's rare for snakes to kill an animal they're not going to eat. So it could be that it spooked them pretty bad and they ended up killing themselves, or it could be that he actually did kill a couple of birds. But it's rare. They don't usually kill things unless they're going to eat them, and they, especially not multiple things. But who knows? But yeah, you're right. Snakes can get in some amazing places. The good thing is that snakes are not like other predators. Once you get them, you release them somewhere away, the chances of them coming back are slim. They don't tend to just come back to the same spot over and over again. Aries says, the smaller ones were weaker. Sorry. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Smaller ones. For sure. It's still really about the same thing, though. It could be genetics of some kind. It's probably going to be like an incubator temperature issue of some kind that I'm guessing caused them to hatch out a little bit late. That's probably the issue. So, all right, Spencer says, repeat question. How can I deal with 2-day-old chicks with splayed legs? Oh, that's a tough one. If they came out of the incubator with splayed legs, it can be difficult to treat, sometimes impossible. You can oftentimes get them, if you catch it quick enough, you can build like a brace for their legs or a splint, out of something like bandages or something like that force their legs to be underneath them and stretch those tendons out. And sometimes that'll work if you can catch it early enough. Now, I find that, in my big brooder box with all the hay in the bottom of it, I had a bird out of this hatch that came out with, it wasn't full-on splay legs, but it was pretty close. The legs were stretched out to the side of them, and I put them in there in that brooder with all the hay in there, and they fixed it themselves. They just got up and started moving around eventually. So, a lot of times it has to do with how good a traction they can get on the floor, the surface that they're walking on. And if they can't get good traction on it, so if it's something like the incubator floor or, newspaper that's really slick or something like that, they can't get good traction on it, they can't get their legs going underneath them, and it can cause more problems than good. But if you have something where they can get good traction on it, I think that hay works out really well because they kind of sit down in it, and it just kind of, I don't know, it seemed to work anyway. So there are some vitamins and minerals. If splayed legs is in an older animal, typically that's going to be like some kind of vitamin deficiency. It's going to be usually vitamin E or thiamine. So you can get vitamin supplements and feed to them. But in younger birds like that, it's usually, it could be a genetic issue, but most of the time, I think it tends to be your late hatches that are like that, which could be, again, low incubator temperature, or for whatever reason, they hatched out a little bit low. or a little bit slow, I should say, and that can cause the splayed legs. But again, if you get them in the right environment, get their legs under them. You can take something like a shot glass, put them in there where their legs are forced under them, leave them in there for several hours, and get those tendons stretched out. Then a lot of times they'll just recover from that and be just fine. Sometimes they don't. What I usually do is give them about 2 or 3 days, and if they don't recover, then I go ahead and call them and just put them out of their misery, because they're not going to get any better at that point, if that makes sense. Mark says, have a great vacation. We're supposed to be on vacation in Branson over Christmas, but COVID nixed that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. We were supposed to have been there over Memorial Weekend as well, but the same. Yeah, we're going to be in Branson next week. I'm not starting off in Branson. We're going to Eminence, Missouri next week, which is the Jack's Fork Creek, one of Missouri's, supposed to be Missouri's most scenic riverway, and it's a beautiful creek. So I'll try to take some video while I'm out there and share it with you guys. And then we'll be in Branson the rest of the week. All right. Bubba says, Chris, would you be interested in some investors in those solar lights? Well, I very well may be. It depends. Yeah, I'm not against it. If we can get it, if we can get the solar lights made and get it out for everybody, then why not? My hobby says my quails are molting. Is that normal? Yeah, probably. Mine are molting too. Some of them, not all of them. Yeah, they molt at weird times. Kathy says, Jay, I have 6 males and they were only 6 weeks old at the time, or now they're in the house. So I think we're talking about the ones where the neighbor complained about them. So Cannabar says, is that Cannabear? There it is. Worm bin drains into a sump tank. I think that has to be aerated for plants during circulation. PVC pipe in the airstream. Is Quail incubator set at 99 too low? Okay, too many. Lots of things to follow there. Make sure I get it. Okay, so let's start with that. Is the Quail incubator set at 99 too low? It's probably fine. I go 99.5. So it fluctuates between 99 and 100. Really, the idea is with a forced air kit, you want it about 99.5. With a still air incubator, you want it at 101. So it depends on what kind of incubator you have. Watch your birds. If they, like I said, if they're not hatching out on day 17 or 18, then it's probably a little bit too low. If they're hatching out after that, you probably want to turn it up just a little bit. If they're hatching out right about on day 17 or 18, it's probably fine. If they're hatching out on day 15, then it's probably a little too warm and you want to turn it down just a tad bit. Hopefully that makes sense. And when I say up or down, we're talking just a little bit. It's not going to take much. 1 degree makes a big difference. So don't go crazy with it. All right. Jay says, do you ever let your rabbits out of the cage and let them in a run or anything for exercise? No, I don't actually. They pretty much stay in their cages. They like to be in their cages. If I get them out, they can't wait to get back in. They're excited to get back in their cage. That's just what they're used to. That's what they've always grown up with. They're pretty content sitting in their cages. I know it seems cruel to a lot of people. You keep them pinned up in cages, but again, that's all they've ever known. They're meat rabbits. They've generation after generation after generation in cages. They're pretty accustomed to it. They're pretty acclimated to it. As long as you give them food and water, they're pretty happy. All right. Acha says, can ivermectin treat fleas in rabbits? I believe it works well for fleas. It's pretty much a general purpose pesticide. So yeah, I think you can use that in rabbits. You can use like Revolution for cats. You can use that on your rabbits. Actually, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, I don't think ivermectin works for fleas. I think it works for parasites only and mice, but I don't think it treats fleas or ticks. So yeah, you can use Revolution for cats. Make sure you get the right weight for your rabbit. You don't want to overdose them with that, but it works to treat fleas and rabbits as well. Like that's the topical stuff you put on their shoulders. All right, how are we doing on time? About 10 minutes left. I'm about out of soda. All right, Gabrielle says, I had a hen cut the pads off both feet. I took her out and soaked her feet in betadine solution, put small Band-Aids around the feet, put her back. You're all right. They heal very quickly. Yeah, they usually do, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's probably a good idea if you have a big injury like that to take them out, at least clean it out pretty good and keep it, covered so that it doesn't get infected or get something else in it. So sounds like you did the right thing. I'm glad to hear it recovered. All right. Old BD1 says, what's up from Southern California? I'm 11 weeks into having chickens, hoping not to lose any from the triple-digit heat wave. Man, good luck with that. Yeah, the heat can be brutal on your animals for sure, but 11 weeks old, you're probably getting pretty close I don't know what you're growing them for. So if you're not growing them for food, then take this as a, this doesn't apply, but at 11 weeks, you should be pretty good to start processing them and get them out of that heat and get them in the freezer. Spencer says using paper towel floor. I don't know if that's a comment or a question, but yeah, I use paper towels in my brooder when I'm brooding in tubs. It's just it's like a double layer of paper towels. It works out pretty well. All right, Craig's Garden says love the channel. Well, thank you, Craig's. I appreciate that. All right, Miguel says, hey, Chris, if you decide to invest in your solar light, let us know. I'll be interested in investing also. Well, thank you. I'll look into that and see. Maybe I can set something up. Like I said, I launched a couple of Kickstarter campaigns on it and just never got traction. Nobody ever invested. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. A handful of people did, but it wasn't anywhere near what we needed. All right. Sand says, I'm hatching quail again. My success rate has not been that great. Usually out of 30 eggs, half are not fertile, and then half of those die just before or after lockdown. I end up with maybe 7. Okay, so here's what I would suggest, Sam, is that, you may be doing all these things already, but check your incubator first of all. Well, first of all, make sure your incubator is in a stable area. So don't put it, like I didn't even think about it. I had my incubator's right over here. Like you can't see that, but I'm pointing at it. I don't know why. But I have my incubator sitting basically in the window. We had the window shades open. So during the day, the sun was going across there and beating down on my incubator. And I had terrible hatch rates for a couple of months. And I was like, what is going on here? And then I realized it. Close the shades, boom, back to great hatch rates. It's just if it's in a place like a window where it's going to have sun beating down on it during part of the day, or over an air conditioner vent where it's going to be blasted with cool air part of the time, those are things that can affect your hatch rate quite a bit. Temperature is the biggest factor in whether you have a good hatch rate or a bad hatch rate. Now, assuming you've got it in a good, stable environment, then I would get a couple of quality, I should say quality, non-digital thermometers. Calibrate them and make sure they're accurate before you do this. And then throw them in your incubator and turn it on and check and see if those two thermometers read the same temperature and it's different than what your incubator says it is, then you need to just adjust your temperature on your incubator to where it actually is at 99.5 degrees or whatever. So hopefully that makes sense. Those would be the two things I would start with. That's probably the biggest reason for a poor hatch rate, or like you said, birds that are hatching just before or after lockdown. That's probably the issue. All right. Jay says, are you the shot glass method? I had one with splayed leg. I only left it in the shot glass for about an hour. I gave it a break, plan on repeating it if necessary, but didn't need to. That's good to know. And bedding with good traction is imperative. Yeah, I would agree with that too. All right, Jay says, thanks. I wasn't trying to say it's cruel by any means. I haven't let mine out of their cages either, so was just curious if it should be. What are we talking about? Oh, the rabbits in the cages. Yeah, I wasn't trying to say you thought it was cruel. I just know a lot of people do, but no, I don't get them out of the cages, so you should be fine. All right. Kaisha says, hello from the Cayman Islands. That's a place I would like to visit too. Says, thanks for all you do. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Craig says, even wild animals can get afraid of leaving a cage if accustomed with it and afraid of the big outdoors. That's true, you can. Mark says, Chris, you missed my question, LOL. Did I? I'm sorry, Mark. Well, it's long gone now, so you'll have to ask it again. Maga says, I love your channel. Well, thank you. And then goes on to say, I have a brooder quail laying on eggs. Hope they hatch. We're raising 24 by 6 aviary, and quail seem to have returned to the wild. Yeah, I've heard a lot of reports about that. If you raise them on the ground in a large open area, like a big aviary, that they do get a lot of those natural instincts back. They're more likely to go broody. They're more likely to sit on their eggs. I still haven't ever heard of anybody having great success from them hatching their own eggs, but it's but hopefully it works. All right. Miguel says, if you start another Kickstarter, let us know. Well, I did let everybody know when I started it, but I had a whole email list that I compiled. I emailed out everybody, let them all know. These are all people that clicked and said, I'm interested. So it's just trickier than it sounds. But yeah, if I do another I don't think I can at this point. I've done it twice. I think it's pretty much done. But who knows? We'll see. I had the same kind of things last time. I had all these people just, man, we love that idea of that light. Let's get it. I want it. I'm interested. And so I ran the Kickstarter and just got like not even half the funding we needed. And it was like, I don't know, like 20 some odd people that pledged. that they would buy it, through the Kickstarter when I needed like 150, something like that. So it was pretty pathetic results. But who knows? We'll do it again at some point, maybe. Or I don't know. Maybe I'll run a deal on there where I can manage to save up enough money to order a bulk order of them in and just sell them out to you guys and see how they go. They've actually worked really well for me. I love them. I just can't believe people didn't just jump all over the idea. But hey, that's just mine. All right, our comments are dying down. We've got, as soon as I say that, we got another one here. Let's go. Candy Bear says, I've got 13 of 30 store-bought quail eggs candled as fertile. Last time I hatched 2 of 20 from the Asian market. Yeah, I imagine it would be very difficult to hatch store-bought eggs, being kept in the refrigerator. Even if they are fertile, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to hatch. But who knows? Maybe you'll have better luck. Dixon says, I was one of those pledges. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for pledging. Sorry it didn't work out. I really wished it would have. Do you have, this is Miguel, says, do you have an email we can talk about it? Yeah, you can email me. It's chris@slightlyrednecked.com. So pretty easy to remember. I'm notoriously bad about responding to email, but I will do my best to respond to your email. So, excuse me. Wilton says, night everyone. Chris, how can you lower the humidity in the incubator? Oh, that's a tough one. First of all, if you, the incubator does have red plugs in it that you can pull out or leave in. If you haven't taken those out yet, take them out and throw them away. You don't need them. You need the ventilation in there. I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you've got those plugs out and you haven't added any water to your incubator, that's as low as it's going to get. And aside from like adding a dehumidifier to the room, I don't think you can get it any lower, but it's probably going to be fine. All right, Mark says, hey, Chris, I have 11 jumbo wilds. I was getting 10 eggs a day the last couple of days. I've only been getting 5 to 6 a day. Plenty of light and calcium. Can you give them too much light? Not really. If there's some kind of stress factor going around, they may have slowed down laying eggs. They may be getting ready to molt, or they may just be taking a break. Every once in a while they do that. Every once in a while they just, for whatever reason, you don't even know why, they just quit laying eggs for a week or two and then pick back up. So, just keep everything consistent. Don't stress too much about it. Don't go moving them around from cage to cage. If you're doing that, that's going to be a stress factor on them. That's going to make them stop laying. Other than that, you don't have to do much. They'll pick back up. All right, Sandy says, one of the female quail will round all the eggs up, and we have a stare down before I can finally get my eggs. I have to shoo her away. That's funny. Canada Bear says, thanks for sharing the knowledge. And TH5526 says, happy vacation. Thank you. I appreciate it. One more day of work tomorrow, and then I'm on vacation for a week. It's been almost a year, right at a year, I think, since I've had a vacation. So I'm looking forward to it. Marie says, darn, I missed it again. Good night. Well, hey, you didn't miss it completely, Marie. You're in here now. Thanks for joining, even if it is late. And don't worry, we don't keep track of that around here. And Phyllis says, you get several investors off your channel. Well, I wish I could. I know. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe it'll work out. If it does, you guys will know, because I'll be out here telling you about it and giving you an opportunity to buy one. Just so you know, I was expecting to sell them for about $40. The lights that I have right now are prototypes, and I've been using them for a couple of years. I did end up changing a battery out in one of them because I had a battery go dead, but that was after like a little over a year of using them, and they were great. So can't beat it. All right, Mark says, also I got a bluish-white egg today from a jumbo wild, no spots. Is that a genetic cross or something? Probably not. It just means probably that your bird ran out of toner, so you need to get some, no, I'm kidding. It's not toner. It's it just happens. You get those kinds of eggs every once in a while. I don't know why. It's probably, unless they lay that type of egg every single time, it's not a genetic thing, more than likely. It's just a weird egg. You just get them. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. We've been right at an hour. Thanks for joining tonight. I always enjoy spending the evening with you guys and spending some time talking quail and everything else that goes with it. So give her some ink. Yeah, that'll probably help. So I got to quit looking at the comments. I'll keep going all night long. Again, no live broadcast next week. We'll pick it back up the week after. Thanks, guys, for watching all the videos. Thanks for supporting me by joining the live broadcast. I appreciate it. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you guys again here in 2 weeks, probably. Take care.